Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video, and in this video we're going to be talking about a GvG tier list for tanks currently as the first one. Taking a little bit break from the tier review, the meta review of all the different weapons. We're going to look at just roles specifically at the moment. First one we're going to look at is tanks. Now, tanks are in a really weird spot at the moment in that often we see how tanks are kind of the optional part of the group. You always need a healer, you always need a couple of ranged, a couple of melee DPS. You don't always need a tank, and we have seen metas very, very recently where we haven't used them at all. So yeah, it's really good to see that they are almost forced into every team comp at the moment. That's a really cool thing to have. And we're going to be talking through which ones, in my opinion, are 5v5 GvG viable in terms of a tier list. This isn't relative to a ZVZ at all. I'll be doing another video entirely on ZVZs. So yeah. So the first things first is the S tier. So we can talk about the key quickly. We've got S, A, B and C. So S is like super. It's above average. It's the weapons you want to see. Average is, it's usable. It's okay. Whatever. B is usable, but kind of you're handicapping yourself a little bit. And then C is like almost unusable. Now, people are going to disagree with this. It's purely an opinion thing. In my opinion, in the S, you've got the staff of balance. The reason for that is cartwheel so strong at the moment. You can disrupt royal boots. Royal boots being so strong. You can disrupt casts. You can disrupt healers. You just are a monster with that cartwheel. You obviously then have the stun run on the W or the forceful swing, which can shut down an entire weapon completely if you use it on the right person. And then you have the runic rocks, which obviously shut down a lot of the move speed, a lot of the healing, kind of a complete counter to bruises, things like that. So I don't think anyone will disagree. Staff of balance at the moment is pretty S tier. Great hammer, not really sure. Probably could have put this anywhere, either S or A. If I had to do it as like S plus, some S minus and whatever, Great Hammer would be an S minus, whereas Staff of Balance would definitely be at the S plus spot. But Great Hammer, at the moment, is kind of the second best weapon for tanking, in my opinion. Paired with the Hellion and the Druid Shoes, you can kind of tackle Druid Shoes, Hellion. You're going to lock someone in that area for a good long time. And I've actually seen teams been running the hammer into the blazing staff combo, where effectively you hammer into, let's say, Druid Shoes Hellion into a blazing on top of that, which means you can't get any healing. You're going to be taking lots of damage, and yeah, it's just going to be pretty nasty. The heavy mace is my first one for the A tier. Again, I think it's a usable weapon. At the moment, it doesn't kind of have that quick hard CC that we are seeing on the other ones. So you look at Hammer, it's got an instant tackle. You look at Staff of Balance, it's got that cartwheel, it's got that instant engage. Heavy Mace has got that really long, slow snare charge, and it's not really consistent with what we're needing in the meta. It's still usable. The Purge is obviously really nice, and actually it's kind of the backup weapon for a couple of tanks. I often see tanks having like a purely hammer tank or still have that heavy mace in the background that you can use if it needs it, because it does lend itself really well to certain situations. Versus nature healers, it's super strong. Versus Clarent Blades, again, incredibly strong. The Ironclad. Now, the Ironclad's a bit of a weird one. I've not seen anybody run it, and that's because Staff of Balance just does Ironclad better. But Ironclad can still disrupt with the cartwheel, with the stun run, and with the knockback on the E. It basically completely can annihilate a holy healer out of the fight. It can just perma CC them, which means while Staff of Balance reduces 50% of healing on everything, Ironclad reduces 100% of the healing output unless you dodge roll or something like that. Ironclad can disrupt that much. So again, this is one of the weapons that I would say it's not S tier, it's not the best thing in the world right now, but actually it's usable, and I don't think a lot of teams are running it. Again, I would probably still run the Druid Shoes Hellion combo, just because that combo in itself is quite strong. In terms of the armor, not really sure what you'd run. You could run Soldier if you want the increased CC duration. Other than that, I would say probably Knight. Or maybe even, in fact, you could run Guardian as well, because if your team's taking a lot of damage, you can kind of fall back, disrupt, and help sort of peel some of that damage off. As you can see by the Soul Scythe, I've got a question mark next to it. Now, I played with the Soul Scythe tank in a Hellgate, in a couple of Hellgates actually, the other day. Again, has that cartwheel, has that stun run, which is all well and good, and actually that does a lot with the fact that it has a super hard engage that's almost unavoidable, not cleansable, whatever. It's really, really strong. The only real direct counter to it is Night Helmet, and even that, you don't see them in the Hellgate or GvG sort of meta. So Soul Scythe, I don't know, for me it's not the best thing in the world, but it does offer you that really solid hard engage, and actually that can be something that changes a fight. So for me, I would say it's usable. It's not the best thing in the world, but I wouldn't say it's actually bad. Polehammer, which is my first of the B tier. Now the B tier, again, usable but not recommended is kind of the main thing. Polehammer, let's just actually show you. Polehammer, that's a cool stuff. Polehammer has a 6.32 seconds stun on a 15-second cooldown that deals whatever amount of damage. Tackle has a 5.21 stun, has a 1 second less stun, and puts you in a bad situation, which sometimes it is what you want, sometimes it isn't. So Polehammer, again, this isn't me saying that Polehammer is the best thing in the world, it's better than Hammer in every situation. It's not. Because actually, you probably want to be next to them if you're running that Hellion Druid Sandals combo. You want to be running on top of them. But again, I think Polehammer, for those people that want to play something different, want to try something different, Polehammer could be really good. Geyser, actually incredible for dealing with the Staff of Balance. Why? Because if you cast it on someone who's stuck under the Staff of Balance, it's going to knock the balance up and the player away in your party. Great peel right there. And I genuinely think it's a super good peel that people are underestimating. And that goes for Great Hammer as well. But Polehammer, for me, I think it's a decent weapon. It's usable. We then have the Grove Keeper. So the Grove Keeper, again, that's the new artifact that's came out in the K-Patch. After a short delay, you'll jump to ground location on impact. All enemies in a 6 meter radius are stunned for 9.22 seconds and take X amount of physical damage. Now, this is a longer stun with more damage that also makes you super tanky. The only issue is it's on a 30-second cooldown. This works so well with the Hellion Druid Shoes combo. I would actually say this is probably A tier, pushing A tier maybe. But if you land this, it's got a super long stun which allows you to get a massive Druid Sandal set up just to pop the Hellion as they're running out the stun. And again, you can actually CC them for probably 10 to 12 seconds guaranteed on any person with a Grove Keeper if you hit multiple people. The only issue I see with it is the radius and the fact that it's a jump as well. Snare Charge, any Mace tank will tell you how many times Snare Charge gets rolled and how annoying it is. It will happen to Grove Keeper as well, which is why I've kind of put it that B tier. But again, it's still super nice. And the other thing, to deal with Staff of Balance, knockout. You just bash a Staff of Balance on the head. If you stop damage on him and you can coordinate it, you can knock him out every time, which stops all of his Staff of Balance nonsense because he's stuck there and you can just walk out of it. So hammers have a lot of way to deal with Staff of Balance. I would say that's why they're meta at the moment, is that you've got the Staff of Balance, which is super strong, and the Great Hammer, which can counter it. So you put them together, and obviously they are both going to be top tier. Grove Keeper, I'd say it's usable, quite expensive, and pretty risky to run. We have actually seen some people running them in GvGs, though. Camler Mace. Now, I was unsure where to put this. I've played with the Camler Mace the other day in a Hellgate. We did one, it went really well, but yeah, we weren't confident. So, peer pressure. You shoot a shockwave in a straight line, so you shoot a line like the Polehammer, it's going to hit the first target, and it'll then pull everybody to that target in a 9 meter radius, which is 18 meter circumference, to the position. So it's a big old circle to his position. So it'll group everybody, deal a little bit of magic damage, 26 meter range, which means you can do this from a long way away. Considering how strong things like crossbow is at the moment, bear paws, all these different weapons, this could work. And I say could very loosely. If you get the right situation right, everybody gets grouped up, nobody royal boots or assassin boots out of it, you're going to be able to pump a load of damage in that. You then link that up with like a snare charge to follow up after. It's usable. And I would say usable, but not recommended. It's so much money and you could buy better things and bring better things. Even in the heavy mace, having that extra purge and silence would give you so much more, in my opinion, than the Camlet mace. So yeah, and then finally we have the Incubus mace. Now the Incubus mace annoys me because I really want this weapon to be amazing. The E ability, the Shrinking Curse, shrinks enemies in a cone in front of you, dealing 240 magical damage, while shrunk damage and the heal power is reduced by 40%, and max and current hit points are reduced by 25%. So you can basically remove their damage by 40%, and remove their health by a 25%. That's a quarter of their health gone in one ability for X amount of seconds, about 8 seconds. Again, if you land a snare charge into the Shrinking Curse, it's going to do work. It's going to allow your teams to kind of capitalize on that. Pretty hard to hit and pretty risky to hit. If you are going to run the Incubus mace, I would very, very much recommend the Caitiff Shield or the Leering Cane. Caitiff Shield because you are going to get focused down and actually you have to dive deep to make this weapon work, so having a little bit more defense is good. If you're feeling confident, then the Leering Cane has an extra increased CC duration, which would help. So guys, I'll leave this link in the description, the document in the description, so you can kind of refer back to it. I will be adding a couple of like build guides and stuff like that into here in the next couple of days. So guys, thanks for watching and catch you later. Goodbye.